nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I second. How does council vote?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Ordinance 808, second reading, and ordinance amending 5.04.180 to be 5.08.180.
I make a motion that we approve ordinance 808 on the second reading.
Second.
How does council vote?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Ordinance 809, second reading, and ordinance amending Title II.
I make a motion that we approve ordinance 809 on the second reading.
Second.
Is there any discussion? How does council vote?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. An ordinance providing for certain fine for violations by liquor license holders, ordinance 807, second reading.
I move that we approve ordinance 807 on a second reading.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, please.
When you approach the lectern, I would ask that you state your name for the record and your address.
My name is Kendra Chorniak. I own Mountain View Discount Liquors, 1888 Shumway, Caspar, Wyoming, 82601.
How can we, you can go ahead and speak your comment.
Okay, I just have a couple questions. First of all, I think that this ordinance is very vague. If I'm not mistaken, I understand the part where you guys want everybody to have the training. Is there going to be specific times when the officers come in, or they just come in whenever they feel like it and look at our books? The second thing is, my biggest concern is you're saying my employees and me as an owner or my husband cannot go into our establishment and have a drink, or if by chance we get intoxicated or get a ride home, we can't do that. If we do, we're going to get fined or lose our liquor license. My employees, for example, I had a birthday party for my daughter. We're not allowed to do that in our establishment. This is a question I have with this ordinance on C. I had the ordinance with me, but I don't have it anymore, so I have to remember off the top of my head. Then it says that we could be fined up to $1,200 or $1,000 on the third offense in 2 years. So we can't call officers in 2 years. Because if we call an officer, or if somebody passes out or dies at our location because they have a heart attack coming in and get a 12-pack of beer, in 2 years, we lose our license for 7 days. We get fined. I'm not understanding this. This is absurd. I understand the problem that's been going on, but you're putting down all kinds of stipulations within a 2-year period. What you're going to make is bars are not going to call when they need help. We have a problem out in the street, we call, we're going to be dinged. We can't call somebody if somebody goes and gets drunk at their home or another establishment and comes in. They start a fight, we can't call because we're going to be dinged. And we're not allowed to call anybody within a year to 2 years, because if we have 1 or 2 violations, we're in trouble.
So I'll go ahead and start addressing some of your questions as far as that we're not allowed to call. It actually specifically states in the ordinance that you are supposed to call. Avoiding the phone call would result in a fine.
Another fine. Is it as big of a fine as the one that you're allowing?
If you allow me to answer your questions, please. As far as your establishment, you are unique because you offer both serving as well as package. Package is different. As far as your statement goes, if a gentleman comes in and passes out from a heart attack because he bought package, those fines don't apply to that part of your business.
Does that state that in the ordinance?
I believe it's separated by package liquor versus bar establishment.
But that's also if an officer decides that they wanna say that if they write up their report wrong, we're gonna be dinged. Or if a mayor doesn't like us.
Well, I surely hope the mayor just doesn't like you. So, as far as your tips training, that's on you guys to verify. The officers do have the right to do a walkthrough whenever they want, if they feel that an establishment has become an issue.
And that's understandable, but you say that the police have to look at our records. Is that a certain time?
I'm not familiar with that part of the ordinance.
C. Or no, I'm sorry, it wasn't C, it was A and B. That the officers would be looking at our records to verify that we have trained. Unless I'm reading the ordinances wrong and you're just saying that everybody's going to get a fine for the first 1, 2, and 3 offenses, but you can only get 1 offense. And then if that includes also the agent getting a fine, but I could be reading all that wrong, but I assumed at the very beginning of the ordinance had everything to do with tips training. That's the problem, I assume, because it is so vague, we do not understand it. You're not going by the state ordinance and backing the state ordinance's wording, you are making up your own, and it's too vague. You can't understand it.
This is actually at the recommendation of the state.
And we have tips training. I'm not worried about the tips training part. I just worried about, okay, you have an officer come in, he says he wants to see our books. If for some reason we don't have it exact because he shows up as we're closing and we can't find exactly what we're looking for because I'm not there, then we're fine.
I'm not seeing a specific section where it says an officer reads or can request to look at your books.
What I believe she's referring to is section D.
Oh, thank you. I don't have it in front of me, so I can't remember.
And what that provided, that's the lengthiest section. It deals just with training, basically, but a provision says the city shall the city shall furnish an appropriate server training record log to maintain the records required in this section. In addition, every license holder shall keep their server training records available for review by police officials at any time when the premises is open for business to ensure compliance with the server training requirements of this section. I think that's the section you're reading.
Yes, I am. Thank you. And you're also dictating whether or not an owner can go in and have a drink at their own establishment.
Yeah, I'm not,
That's C.
Well, I think that what that provides is that regards intoxication. It doesn't say that you can't have a drink at your
Okay.
establishment.
But a DUI or an intoxication is to the officer's discretion. So if my husband decides he wants to go in for 2 beers and an officer walks in and says, oh, you're an agent, we get fined. Because he's not allowed to, or an employee that's off duty, they're not allowed to drink. We're not allowed to have any alcohol, any drinks in this city. We're not allowed to have any parties in this city. We're not allowed to do anything at our establishment in this city. So you want all our revenue to go to another establishment in the city of Casper.
I'm gonna curb you on that. It does not state any of those statements that you had just referenced. Again, what Attorney Holster
That's what I'm
has
assuming
said
because it's too
was
vague.
intoxication, and it has nothing to do with whether or not the owner is drinking. It has to do with whether they're intoxicated.
And actually,
And what's intoxicated?
proprietors are actually excluded from it, so it's specific. So an employee or agent for purposes of this section shall not mean or include a proprietor, a general partnership's partners, corporation's presidents, a limited liability company's members, or a limited general partner. So proprietors are actually excluded.
But if the agent is the owner,
Well, that would be the proprietor, so
so it's double standard. You're saying one thing in one sentence and another thing in another sentence. I don't understand. It's too vague.
well, actually, your complaint probably is it's over-specific, actually. So,
And what's intoxicated?
Ma'am, if you have to ask the question what intoxication is, we might have a different issue.
No, I'm just saying my one drink might be intoxicated compared to your 3 drinks.
It's not under the tips certification. There's a
I had
specific
tip
standard
certification,
as far as intoxication goes.
.08. I'm not talking about .08.
So, and you're correct.
Stagmus, I'm not talking about
Is
stagmus.
it one drink for myself would be not the same as one drink for you. However, as a tips certified trainer, you should know to be able to identify an intoxicated individual.
I disagree because I am tip certified. And it's to the discretion of the officer. And you're putting all this on an employee. Who says that somebody that walks into the Beacon isn't drunk? Just like the fight where there was a stabbing. Were those people there very long? No. Did they get their alcohol from the Beacon? No. But you're making it all the responsibility of the Beacon. So they weren't supposed to call the police? Oh, but if they did, they would have been fined. But now you're saying that if they didn't, if they did, they're gonna be fined. If they didn't, they're gonna be fined. When people walk in, they have a grudge against somebody. It was all about race, that fight. So it's the Beacon's fault. And I'm not condoning what the Beacon's doing. I try not to have any fights or anything in my establishment. But they walked in, they had a beef with somebody. They were planning on fighting anyway. I know the people that were involved, they weren't drinking there. So how come would it be the bouncer's fault, the server's fault, the owner's fault, everybody else's fault, but the person that did the deed?
I believe those individuals were charged with crimes.
Well, yeah, they're gonna be charged, sure. But you're also trying to make everybody else, we went through this in Casper. Make everybody else responsible for somebody else's act.
That's the unfortunate part of business ownership though, isn't it?
Is it? Are you sued because of your business?
It could be, yeah, absolutely.
Do you have these kind of stipulations in your business?
You'd be surprised, I do actually, yes.
Here in Mills?
I'm actually in Casper.
Oh, well, Casper has a whole different ordinances.
There's
And Casper
nothing about
doesn't
that.
need the revenue like the city of Mills does. You run all these bars out of business, what are you gonna have? Budget gaming? But that's what everybody wants, correct?
As far as I'm aware, we have not had any issues with your store, be it
No,
serving
we
or
haven't.
package. So I'm not real sure of the concern on your behalf. You've not had any issues.
I know you have because I won't allow it.
And I commend you on that. I would hope that the other
But
bars
it's
would
not
take from
That,
that
that,
that
Hi guys,
leadership.
my name is Abrielle Van Valkenburg. I'm the manager at Mountain View Discount Liquor. I also live at 4460 Mountain View Drive. So it's, even though we have not had any, we haven't had to call the cops on that instance. We have had some theft and a disturbance that we had to call. It's more so the fact is like my mom said, we had held a birthday party for me and employees were there because they're my friends. And if they choose to get intoxicated but have a sober driver, that I'm having a hard time there. People go out to get intoxicated all of the time. If they choose to do that but you have a sober driver, I don't feel like that should be your dictation to have. That's just, if I choose to go out, then cool. Also, I am tip certified and I have that tip certification. It also is very frustrating when somebody's talking to you and you don't look at them or address them. But I had a gentleman, and this is a very good example, I had a gentleman come in probably 3 weeks ago and asked for a shot of whiskey and a beer. He seemed fine, he was upright. I had no idea, he's a regular of mine. 5 minutes later, he slammed his shot, slammed his beer, and he fell. He was wasted. I had no idea. So you're telling me that would come back on me? He came into my facility drunk from Frank's. He told me afterwards, because I was like, holy, are you okay? Went through everything, and still was not okay. So that's just, I think, where the clarification is. But since I'm not being addressed by the one that I would like to be addressed from, my minutes are done, so I appreciate you guys.
Correct me if I'm wrong, where they would get in trouble with that would be if they didn't call, is that correct? Because I mean, you're a bar, you're gonna get intoxicated people. And so, so is that, if say she didn't call the
Didn't
police
call.
or an ambulance
It's-
for him, it
Right,
just,
it just sounded like he needed an ambulance, if I understood.
Yeah, and from my understanding, his friend grabbed him and they left. I'm I'm not sure what happened from there. So, but he literally like got up, his friend grabbed him and left before I would have called the ambulance, and as fast as my response time is being across the street, they wouldn't have made it there by the time that they walked out my facility. So like, and that's what I'm concerned about, and like you said, it is a bar, people are gonna come, they're coming to get intoxicated, they're coming to drink. So and I'm gonna be like, alright, you're done, you know, and like I said, I've done my tips training, I went through, I feel like I have a pretty good judge of character. Also, I'm very thankful that our very small bar has our regular customers, and knock on wood a million times, because I don't want to have those problems. That's also why we close early, because nothing good happens in a bar past 9 p.m. You know, I mean, it's a stand. Bars have fights. Bars have those problems. So, yeah. Thank you guys.
I'm just reading a little bit more on the intoxication part of the ordinance there. I'm really not seeing the connection between, you know, if you're an owner, you can't drink, or you're an employee, you can't drink. I'm not seeing the connection in the ordinance there.
I think they can't drink and serve is what it stipulates to.
It doesn't say that.
That's not.
And I'm not seeing where it says that you can't have a birthday party and have your friends drink either.
That's the way I read that, but I think that was the intent, is that you couldn't serve and drink at the same time.
And
That's the way it was intended, and we could look at the reading and make sure that's exactly the way that comes across. It has no idea, from the way I read that, being a proprietor, being the business owner would put you above any of those others, so you would claim that title. That's what Pat was saying, that it's almost too specific, because it lays everything out. So that's where that one could come in. And then the intent of the whole thing is to be able to have a way to punish a bar for not calling in the incidences, not necessarily calling them in too much. So.
Thank you for answering that politely, not.
And there, just for clarification, there's no punishment for calling in an ambulance for somebody who needs it.
Okay, that was where I misunderstood it, because I understand that the more calls you get, the more in trouble you
I
get.
think it just needed clarification more than anything.
No, that's not the intent. I mean, the intent here is to have you guys call more. It's for those incidences where the police are driving up on something and you haven't done anything. So the intent is to make them call more rather than less.
Okay, because we were worried, but like I said, we called the officers twice for theft, and we're like, are we not supposed to call anybody?
Well,
Okay.
dial back in and have them speak at the podium, they can't be speaking from the gallery.
So that's the intent there.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Well, it isn't also for extreme incidences, like shootings and stuff.
It's mostly directed at fights of various types, and it starts off with that.
Fred, what was your comment about clarification on one of these sections where if it's not there, we should maybe add it?
The can't serve and drink, is that what you're talking about? They can't serve people and.
Well, I think that was pretty clear, the serve and drink. It was more the calling in, making sure that they call in. We can read through it again, I mean, just to make sure that everything's there. So it's a way to be able to do something for those establishments that are having issues.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, I feel like section 1 pretty well defines those habitual situations that we're trying to deal with.
But I think we can read through it one more time. I mean, it doesn't go through until the next reading, so we have some time to review it,
Yeah, I agree.
especially with the concerns.
I did my best to note it down, but see if we can't expand upon some of the things that were addressed tonight and make sure that the claims were in fact not, you know, if they're not here or if they are, we need to find a better way to word it.
Yeah, I mean, if it's, I agree. We can look at wording, but I don't think we should call for
motion to approve?
It's already been
Oh,
motioned and
approved.
seconded.
How does council vote? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
That's it.
Yeah, so I guess now we're at open discussion. Is there anyone in the audience or gallery who would like to speak at the podium? Please keeping in mind that you have to address the podium. Speaking from the gallery is not allowed. State your name for the record and the address, and you do have a time limit of 5 minutes. And when you address your questions, you are to address them to the council.
I don't think anybody's
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn?
Second.
How does council vote?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion